going to be good, as we do have spawning down in our, I would say, bottom right-hand side-ish. We have our blue Zerg, and he goes by the name of Quantix Golden.
And over yonder, top left side from Team Fnatic, it is aLive, who has been deviating from his styles a little bit. Let's see what he brings to the table here today. Abyssal City, of course, a GSL map. These watchtowers very interesting in formation because they watch just part of the possible attack paths. Certainly, this top pod and this lower pod are the absolutely critical defensive formations on this map. I mean, absolutely essential. If you're just holding, for instance, if I am a Zerg player and I'm holding the southern pod, it automatically defends this miniature base behind. And likewise, if you hold the top pod, you have a very strong ability to defend the top, not just the top right, but actually all top 3 expansions. So those end up being super important. These destructible debris in the middle can be knocked down, but interestingly don't generally have that big of an impact on the center map flow.
No, you're actually right with that. You very rarely end up seeing those rocks being taken down on this map whenever I watch it. And I mean, it's a good thing to point out the vision that those watchtowers actually grant, because most times on most maps, say Cloud Kingdom, for example, you can't actually traverse the map by ground without actually breaching the vision of either of the watchtowers. It's literally impossible if your opponent controls both. Whereas on this map, there are potentials that you can actually get across the map very sneakily. So that's a cool little dynamic here on Abyssal City.
Yeah, you know, that was honestly kind of annoying for quite some time, that like every map had the trait that if you held a watchtower, then you did it. You saw everything that could possibly go down. This map is not the case. The far southern and far northern counterattack paths are very tough to deal with, especially versus a Zerg player. So aLive is going for the command center first, and of course, if you're going to start out playing a little bit ballsy, you may as well go all out. Command center, then gas, then barracks. So aLive is literally stapling a poster to his chest that says, "I'm rushing for Hellions and probably going for a fast third command center."
I'm so surprised that he went for command center first. I was expecting him to go for a double racks opening, because that's what aLive seems to do every single time I ever watch him play against Zerg, but apparently not. He wants to play a little bit more macro intensive, and you know that this map's underwater, right? Yeah, it's so cool. Every time I cast on this map, I'm like, it's underwater, schnarf, it's cool, but
yeah, of course it's you can tell because when things explode, they float upwards.
Yes. Oh god, it's so good to watch. I don't know why it's so good to watch, but it just is.
That really took me aback the first time I saw this map, to be honest.
There's a satisfying feeling about it. I don't know why, but oh well. So for now, the sharks aren't space sharks anymore. They've got little bubbles around them, and they're actually underwater. So somehow, some way, the Zerg has decided that they're going to all breathe underwater. It's pretty impressive.
Marines are going to walk on the ground, fire guns, and stutter step with 0 loss of efficiency. Yes.
It's not very viscous water, I guess. It's some kind of alien water.
This point in time thing is pretty much by the book for all players. Golden Light has essentially 2 basic options from early expanding: go for speed fast, or go for the quadruple queen and the very, very fast third. So Golden Light is just opting for the speed. I like this. There's actually a little timing push that you can do right with all these Zerglings. Actually, it seems slightly off. Life does like this timing push where when all these Zerglings, or when all these larvae pop out, you flood lings. But they're just a smidge too late to be able to do that. But you can hit a player who rushes for a factory.
Yeah, that can be a little bit scary. aLive here, though, is the kind of guy who's going to kind of prepare for, eventualities. And, oh, well, now that I say that, he goes for a very quick third command center. So he's just going to macro up pretty aggressively here as well, which we shouldn't put past aLive. He does like macro sometimes.
Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is if you go command center gas, I mean, command center gas is just declaring straight up that you're just going to be going for a third command center. It's almost undeniable at that point. So, I mean, the only other thing is potentially going for something like a very, very fast Hellion Banshee play, but even then, players generally prefer to not do it in that order. And hey, look, what do you know? Big engineering bay aggression. At least he's consistent in wanting to go for Marine play.
Yeah, and being the most greedy Terran of all time currently with 1 barracks and 1 factory's worth of production. It's funny because, with those Zerglings actually swinging around to the north here and trying to poke in, well, I mean, it depends entirely on how aLive's going to, micro, so I don't think he should be able to do too much aggression with it. But this is the kind of exploitative play from Zergs that does end up hurting a Terran that's going for the greediest play ever. So,
yeah. I will say, though, Golden Light is getting the usual mixture. I'm surprised that there's no second Evo chamber. Ah, there it is.
There you go.
I'm no longer surprised. So, yeah, Golden Light is now going to begin poising himself to do any potential little teensy-tiny counterattack. aLive going straight away for this marining play. He's going to actually need to do some pushing quickly because, I mean, you're talking a little bit about it before, that Zerg players now kind of have this magical way to play against Terran where they just get all the things. +1/+1 3 bases, fast layer, and infestors, and they have a lot of money for infestors. It seems impossible, but they've managed to cut a full minute and a half off of the more traditional timings.
Yeah, it gets a little bit scary for the Terran as well at that point, because how do you end up really bridging the gap and going into a late game situation against a Zerg who has everything that they want? It's just... So Terrans in the mid game have had to be very, very aggressive and try and find the angles themselves. And he finds one of the angles here in the form of his opponent's third base, which is nicely saturated. But actually, he's pulled those drones away pretty quickly and is not spreading too badly at all.
Yeah, I'm actually impressed with how few drones died here. 5 drones, and at what cost? All the Hellions that swept in, there's only 3 more remaining on the map, and those are actually pretty critical for early pushes because they're essentially the substitute for Combat Shield. They absorb hits, deal a little bit of extra damage, so now aLive has to wait for both Stim and Combat Shield to push, and it looks like he never even had a push plan for the longest time. And this, I actually think, is going to bite aLive in the butt. I think that Golden, who's playing under the ID Golden Light, but is actually on Team Quantic now, Golden is going to be just destroying aLive in the mid and late game. I mean, the upgrades are going to start catching up. He can take a 4th right now. Actually, I think Golden should have identified that and taken the 4th right away. But yeah, it's looking quite good for him.
Yeah, he's also doing a very, very good job of actually spreading the creep out in the middle of the map as well. So if he goes for this Ling Bane aggression here, he could try and bust at the wall at the front of his opponent's base and actually try and... but it's not... Zergs nowadays have found the room to put on aggression, but still behind it drone up pretty efficiently as well. And that's the scary point to where Zergs have got in today's metagame. It's very, very hard to deal with as a Terran or even a Protoss.
Golden positioning links at every which way. There's a macro hatch in the main. Again, really needs to throw down that 4th. This is so the problem with just having really strong build orders. It's easy to just trust your build order more than some common sense. If your opponent's Stim is that late, you're still going to be defending his push with just infestors. And if you're 2 inches forward with infestors or 2 inches back, you're still just defending with infestors. So you may as well plant a 4th base down.
There's a lot of supply depots here randomly, and he kills off all the SCVs creating them. Even burrows some Lings during all of that to actually block off that command center.
Nice move. An excellent little play by Golden, who's playing, again, he's playing mechanically well, but strategically there's a big hole there. This 4th base, God, starting, what, a full 2 minutes later than it could have, comfortably. And, I mean, look at aLive in his main base, only just now adding on those barracks, only just now adding on that tank, only just now trying to get up his 3rd base. aLive's doing all the delay Light's doing all the delay tactics, and that's what I like to see. Look at that hatch going down at the 5th base. The only thing that I think is missing is actually a 2nd macro hatch, because you can go heavy Ling Infestor at this point, like ridiculously heavy.
Yeah, you really can. You need so much lava. It's so lava intensive in comparison to any other unit composition. And right now he's actually going to push in. Once again, no pullback for a little second. It was interesting what aLive did. He actually threw down the missile turret and forgoes the scan. He had the energy for scans for the longest time to claim his 3rd, but it's feeling comfortable to just keep him, like... I mean, he's slowed down, right? Which is not necessarily the best position to be in. And Golden's trying to seize some kind of opportunity here with a very, very impressive army at the front. And, with all those infestors as well, he has to be careful. That army of aLive is very clumped up right now.
Yeah, aLive has some tough decisions that he has to make coming up ahead. For one, he has to remember to build his upgrades. That's probably the biggest one.
Yep.
But with this drop going on at the top, I mean, this is more annoying than it is going to do anything because, I mean, aLive sure got to whittle away a few hit points there, but he's not putting on any coupled pressure. There's another medevac moving out. aLive actually has to push along the southern pod, along the southern watchtower. Why? Because his third base is an orbital command and not a planetary. He can't comfortably push along the top side, even though there are those two juicy command centers there. So he's going to have to do something that controls all the attack paths up to that side of the map. And there we see the medevac drop in the main. Pushing towards the main would benefit him greatly.
Look at Golden, though. He's so prepared. Spines just decide to swing savagely at one Marine and kill it off. And meanwhile, we have Golden just preparing for any kind of drop at the top. But Golden's, well, aLive's going to go right around to the natural with that one. So, but, I mean, oh, there's two Banelings actually burrowed near the fourth command center of aLive, actually. Can you see that?
Yeah, there's some really slick little burrowed Baneling plays. This is a kind of risky push from aLive, but aLive is doing a drop at the natural to try to buy himself position in this circumstance. And there, look at that money move, building the sensor tower to be able to avoid any counterattack. That's actually a brilliant placement. This is going to allow aLive to push all the way towards light expansion.
Yeah, he could kill this off very quickly, and indeed he does. He will actually pull back from that point on. He's on creep, doesn't want to be engaging his opponent too quickly there, as for now he's each dropping once again in the main. Yeah, actually, that Great Aspire is slightly exposed here. If he kills off enough Zerglings, he could start doing a little bit of damage to that. But whoa, wait a minute, that's way too many Zerglings. Hold the phone.
Yeah, it looks like the Greater Spire does wrap up. There, the medevac gets taken down. It looks like aLive is just going for a blitz lightning push through the center of the map. This is going to be a tough position for Light, because now this has moved so aggressively forward that bottom left expansion is now protected because of how defensive Light has to be in. And now Light doesn't even know how to defend all the different angles of attack. He needs the Broodlords up.
Golden now just still trying to keep himself well rested. I mean, that's a lot of Broodlords that he has now. 6 in total against no Vikings is pretty good. Zergling's actually going to push in here along with those Banelings to try and connect. And the Marines are all pinned up against the side, so they do connect. Oh dear.
And now we see the top right expansion did get picked. Nice pick up there by aLive, who's in a reasonable condition himself. But, you know, I'm just wondering how aLive wants to play off this. One of the strengths of pushing along the southern path is that you get the opportunity to take a southern base, but aLive is actually trying to move more towards the middle. So he wants to mule the bottom left as fast as possible and actually mine that out.
Yeah, I would say that, you know, going for that wouldn't be too bad, but I think he still has to be so careful right now of the fact that his opponent has a huge swell of Zerglings moving through the middle of the map here, as well as adding on 6 extra Infestors and getting Carapace for these Broodlords. He needs something to deal with them. And he's even adding on Thors to try and deal with all of this. This is pretty crazy.
Golden Light still has those burrowed Banelings there that narrowly couldn't get that little pack of Marine Marauder at the south side. Now it looks like Planetary Fortress going up in center map strong.
There's just Zerglings everywhere burrowed as well. This is really annoying for him, even if he wanted to claim that base down to the south. There was a Zergling that was just barely off being burrowed under that, well, now a Planetary Fortress. So, fortunately for Quantix Golden, he's not really able to shut down as much as he would like to have aLive.
Mm-hmm. Kind of an odd situation for both players. aLive managed to run in, picked off 2 bases quickly. Golden Light is only just now recovering from that. These drops, again, ordinarily are not particularly strong, just all by themselves, but if it opens up an opportunity for aLive to push the top again, it's going to help them out a lot. Heavy defense down at the south side. A full siege tank and bunker.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is quite a lot. You don't normally expect a siege tank as well as the bunker there, but he's taking good precautions there. aLive now dropping in his opponent's main, trying to find maybe a queen kill. Will pick that one up. Oh, actually, no. Transfuses go down, as well as Banelings running in and Zerglings. Nice play there by Golden, really limiting the amount of damage his opponent can do.
Yeah, I mean, Golden is just on point defending against these drops, but again, the point was not to deal damage. The point was to let this drop get in position and see you later, Broodlords. A couple Broodlords get picked off up in the center of the map. right away. There still are another 5 there, and with some excellent stim scanning, I mean, aLive is looking in incredible position to overrun this. He just needs to avoid those key fungals and start working away at those Broodlords, but the Baneling and Zergling numbers are quite high from Golden. They get picked down, and aLive continues to storm ahead.
Oh wow, aLive has played this out so well. Even if his anti-air isn't enough, there's still quite a few Marines here that can try and close the gap with those Broodlords. They're going to pull back for now, and he doesn't have that many Vikings left over, so he can't. And there you go, there he is. He's actually going to try and close that gap. Tries to bring one of the Broodlords down, will get one. Does he get a third? And well, he gets second there. There are 2 more still very weak, but there's so many Zerglings flooding in. So back and forth here. Golden with the nice defense in the end.
Golden Light, so on point. Just looking fantastic in this match. I mean...
That was pretty crazy, that engagement. I was assuming, just a reinforcing ton of Zerglings there from Golden was able to shut that down, and he finally gets some more Broodlords here, but those actually dying off to begin with was kind of horrible for him.
Yeah, GoldenEye does have to be careful. He is still at 2-2 upgrades. Weirdly, this is one of the few times where that center open path becomes pretty significant. A minor little plod inward with a couple of Marines from aLive, but you can take out the center because so often Terran must push up along the top pod or along the bottom pod, and it's a very easy way to both do a counterattack at this 4th base, or hell, even in the natural main, and still have a comfortable retreat path.
I think one of the interesting things that we have going on right now for Golden is the fact that his creep spread is arcing around to the top left to the point where he's actually limiting his opponent from taking, like, the top left base if he wants to take that. It's not necessarily the most amazing thing to do, but if you want to put on your opponent's pressure at your opponent's base as well, it's not too bad of a place to expand. And I mean, right now, both players are just maxing out once again and gearing up with pretty insane unit compositions with tons of Thors still mixed in for aLive.
Yeah, aLive is not the player who likes to let up on aggression. He wants to keep making units that can move around quickly and do a lot of stuff. I mean, sure, the Viking is the ideal response to the Broodlord, but the Thor can also deal damage to other planes. Naturally, the blast on the ground is quite potent, but we're seeing Golden Light poke in with these counterattacks at the bottom side, and it's so difficult to account for every possible counterattack that can swing at the south if you're all positioned up at the north. Other drop gets shut down as well. Golden Light's doing everything he needs to do. He just needs to build up. He needs to remember 3-3 upgrades, and maybe even remember that Adrenal Glands is still in StarCraft 2.
That's a very good point. Adrenal Glands is amazingly awesome if you're going to play this kind of style, and as is the 3-3. As for now, he will accumulate all of his units back in the middle of the map. Quantic Golden here looking to try and put some pressure on against his opponent, but there's so many Vikings out right now. The Broodlords aren't really going to have much of a say unless the Corruptors can get good surface area on those.
Looking around, we see that aLive is still doing the same play. Drop, shove up on the north side, but this attack looks a whole lot more prepared to deal with a big air army. We see only 6 Infestors, 16 Corruptors, and 55 Marines. That means the Marines are actually going to be just as important against the Broodlords as those Vikings will.
Catches a little bit of them with a fungal there. He actually has no medevacs. So every time these Marines are like stimming, and every time they get fungal, they're just dead instantaneously. This is not necessarily the most amazing situation for aLive to be in. Oh,
God. Oh, no. You do not want to lose any Vikings at this point. And he does it again. Huge packs of Vikings falling, huge packs of Marines falling. One of the worst possible engagements for aLive goes down. Units sweeping around from all the wrong sides. Transfuses abound, Broodlings, Zerglings, everything that could ever have Ling in it is just being shoved right down aLive's throat.
Oh, and aLive behind that tries to establish himself a base down to the south, but he can't because that one burrowed Zergling's been there for eons. So right now, he's adding on more Broodlords, he's adding on that +3 melee, and Golden is just in such a good spot. That engagement for him went so well in comparison to aLive. Oh dear.
Uh-oh. Oh, and the Broad Banelings. Oh my god, is he going to get the Broad Banelings this time? Oh!
Well, they clipped.
An actual connection?
Yeah.
aLive losing this expansion, and this is the money angle for Zerg. killing off this expansion opens up the ability to expand to top left. That's exactly what Golden's doing, and aLive, who is known so well for his strong TVZ, is on the ropes now.
Yeah, he's really not been able to deal with Golden whatsoever in the mid-game. All of his aggression didn't really pay out. And, I mean, he kills the base, that's great, but these Corruptors are going to hunt down the Medivacs. He needs to drop all those units right now. And, oh, poor Medivacs go down. Zergling swing in to clean that up. And right now, aLive is looking completely down and out. There's so many Broodlords on the map, and he's 80 supply ahead. Quantic Golden is playing this so well. And there you go,
oh,
GG.
GG. Wow, aLive just kept butting his head against the door of Golden. But geez,